I'm bringing John back again for a little more trust talk. So in the past videos, we have talked about your team, your peers, that trust needs to be super strong.
The team that you're a part of and the team that you lead are two entirely different teams.
Yes. We also talked about vulnerability trust versus predictive trust.
Correct.
Right? Okay. Hopefully you guys got a lot of golden nuggets from those episodes. Now we're gonna go a different angle a little bit. I'm on a team. People report to me. I'm part of the leadership team. So let's hone in on that. My peers, right? My leadership team. We're productive. We've got some synergy. Things are happening. Things are going well. How do I know how they trust me? So if there's 10 people on a team, there's 9 others that might have a different score that they give me in that trust category. How do I know where I'm at in trust with each person? And how do I know what I need to work on? Like, where are my blind spots? Where are my gaps? How can I figure that out based on the interactions?
So I think of the trust meter that we'll get into a little bit. I'm going to use a coaching tool. Kathy just asked me a question. So how do I know what they think about me? Here's my coaching tool. What are some ways for you to determine what others think about you?
What are some ways for me to determine what they think about me? Well, I can just pay attention to the interactions.
Okay.
Do they affirm and acknowledge with me? Do they shut down? Do we even have conversations? Do I feel heard? Do they take my ideas? Do they ask me questions and build on it?
Okay, so those are a lot more questions. But what is a way to determine if they trust you or not?
Well, I can ask them.
You can ask them. There you go. You can have a conversation about it.
God, that's tough though. Hey, honey, scale of 1 to 10, how do you trust me?
It's not easy. This isn't an easy thing. I'm not even going to kid you on this. But this is why this is important. I once did a training with an organization. It was a transit organization. And it was all their leaders in a room. We were sitting around in a big circle. And I said, on the count of 3, I want you to give me a very technical measurement of, do you work on a trusting team by giving us this or this?
Can you go this
wherever you are.
There's my meter.
Wherever you're at. On the count of 3, throw up that hand and show me where you are in a trusting team. 1, 2, 3, and everyone did it. There was everybody but one person was like this. Everybody was either here or maybe a little bit. No one was halfway. They were all down, right? Except one person. The CEO, who was like this.
Oh, no.
Not one hand. He had 2 hands out, giving it a thumbs up.
How did he react to everybody else?
I said, look around.
Ooh.
Now, here's the principle behind what I did was, you don't know what others are thinking. You don't know. You think or you intend to be trusting versus what are the results. They know they can trust me. Do they? And so by what you were saying is having the conversation, a trusting, vulnerability-based trusting team has to have this conversation. Is, where do we measure? What's your measurement? And it starts with that trust meter that I was talking about. So think to yourself, you don't got to say it out loud, but think to yourself, do you give unconditional trust initially? Like everyone you meet, is it at a 100? Or do they have to earn your trust? Now we're getting into personalities as well, right? Task-oriented people have to trust you before they like you. People-oriented ones have to like you before they trust you. So there's a whole lot to unpack here. But where is your trust meter? Are you unconditionally trusting people and then if they prove you wrong? Or do they have to earn your trust? These are all things we need to consider to have a trusting team.
So the trust meter isn't how people trust me, it's how do I trust other people?
Because that's the one we can control.
That's the one we can control. Okay.
Now,
Okay.
so do I trust? Am I vulnerable? Do I put myself out there to trust people? High effective teams have this vulnerability-based trust. But what do my team think of me? We got to have a conversation.
That's tough.
It is tough, but so is vulnerability-based trust.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so true. When I think about having this conversation and talking about, hey, how well do you trust me? First of all, I need time to really think about that answer. Please don't, I'm a fast-paced person. Please don't pop that question on me in an upcoming meeting. Because I don't want to offend. I really want to think about it, right? But then also, I need examples, or I need scenarios, or I need maybe situations to consider that, how did you trust me when I brought this idea to the table? What was your level of trust? What was the score that you were going to give our conversation? That I think is a good place to begin, rather than being like, hey, as a whole, how much do you trust me? Well, there's a lot of dynamics there that could raise and fall my meter a little bit.
So it's also the environment. Okay, so when we talk about vulnerability-based trust, here's another word that we love to say, but it's hard to give, is transparency. We got to be transparent. Okay, so Pat Lencioni tells a story that he was working for this big firm, and this leader was a very famous, powerful leader, and they wanted to do a 360 feedback where he asked all of the team, to chime in on there. And so this is what happened. The CEO, who was very smart, very popular, was in front of the camera a lot, stood up there and says, "This says that I'm not a very good communicator. What do you guys think?" And they went around, and this person's like, "Boss, I think you do a great job. I have no problem with you. You're very trusting, blah, blah, blah." And he went around and he's like, "Okay, next one." And then he went in and, "Not me. No, I think you're doing a great job. No, you're great. You're fine."
So the people in the room, like his leadership team,
Yes.
They may not have answered that way to get those results of the 360.
But they weren't willing to be transparent.
So a few things. Either they didn't answer that way, so the CEO just dismissed it, or they weren't being honest.
So Pat stands up and he's like, "Excuse me," because he knew by doing what he's about to do, he could question his job with this firm, right? Because this was his first consulting firm that he was working with. But he had to follow his character and his integrity. And he stood up, he's like, "Hold on a second. You're the only ones that answered this. So someone had to say this." Until the person, I think they were in HR, stood up. He's like, "Yeah, you know what? I would like a little bit more feedback. It seems like the only time you communicate is when we did something wrong, and we just would like to know more about ourselves." And it got really quiet in the room until the head lawyer said, "Not me, I think you do a great job." And they hung him out to dry. At that time, Pat knew that they had no chance of having a trusting team, because it started with the leader. The leader was not being vulnerable, wasn't being transparent, and didn't want anything to do with this. So the reason I bring all this up is that being able to have a conversation, do you trust me? All he had to do was stand up there and say, "Hey, listen, I know I'm not a great communicator. I'll work on it. I know my wife tells me 2 or 3 times a week that I don't talk enough, or that I'm not a good communicator. I'll truly do my best to work on this. Now, what are some of the things that you can do better?" That's all he had to do, but he didn't do it. He denied it. And he put up a front. So when I say the leader has to go first, this is what I mean.
Ooh, that's good. Okay. Is there a chance that we go too far over the edge, seeking the answer of trust? Like, is there a point where we ponder it too much and we try to dig in too much. Is there any situation when we keep it simple? We hear them. I guess this might be affirm and acknowledge,
Yes.
right? We hear them. We keep it in our head and we work on it going forward, but we don't like dig ourselves in a hole or make ourselves feel guilty every single minute of every single day. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think a healthy, again, this is a way. I am not smart enough to come up with the way of handling situations. So this is a way. I think you still have to have boundaries. And the boundaries have to consist is what are you comfortable with? Like in my job, people, I can be vulnerable and hopefully they can trust me, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go deep in the archives of my private life to share with people. There are boundaries that I create, guidelines, right? Side markers, so you don't run off the road type of thing. And that is, again, a conversation that you can have with your team is, okay, what does professionalism look like in our company?
That's good.
What does trusting teams look like? And have that conversation without being an open book, right? And exposing all kinds of things that just aren't appropriate.
Be professional through the whole conversation. We're humans. We're always growing. We're always learning. We're never perfected. We have to stay open. The affirm and acknowledge. Wow, there's so much here. Woo-hoo.
But you create boundaries.
Yeah.
And you don't cross it.
Okay. I know for me, I need to sit on this a little bit.
Good. Then I think I've done my job, because this is not a concept that it's, oh, I'll be trusting. This is something that you really need to go inside yourself and think about and ponder. Noodle, what does a trusting team look like? And am I ready for a trusting team? Not every team is ready to have vulnerability-based trust, but
maybe I'm not ready to be on a team that is seeking that level of trust.
We had a conversation, and it was more in just passing, but it's a great concept here. If she has, well, let's look at something very relevant and timely. If she has COVID and I am totally healthy and I have nothing wrong with me, and I come up to her and I kind of give her a big hug or whatever, is my health going to make her better? Mm-mm. Or is that COVID that she has going to affect me more?
More likely that.
Right. That's the way toxic people are as well. There's a better chance that toxicity that person has on your leadership team, which, by the way, I don't know if this is relevant.
We're not thinking of anybody. We're just thinking of leadership teams in general might have this.
There's more of a chance that toxic behavior is going to infiltrate the positive, healthy, than the healthy is going to make that person better. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but while it's possible, it's not probable. And so sometimes managing them off the team might be the path to go. Worst case scenario, we don't want to think like that, but
that's for the health of the team.
If you don't have everyone
Yeah.
working in the same direction, it's going to be hard.
But also, just personally, you may need to make a decision to manage yourself off the team because you can't get past it. Not saying that exists for anybody, but I think this is a path that I know I've been on before, where I've chosen to not be part of certain leadership teams because I couldn't get past trusting somebody that was on the team already.
And for the betterment of that team, you're actually doing them a favor. Because if not everyone is rowing in the same direction, that synergy, it's just not going to happen. At least to the level that you deserve.
Okay, like we've said before, many times when we think about trust, we think about how we trust other people or don't trust other people or what sets us off. And that's fair. However, we're the only people that we can control. So if I want to learn and grow, I need to know where my trust gaps are. What are the things that I do or don't do that creates lack of trust within my peers? However we find that. Be careful. Sometimes we get what we're asking for, and that doesn't always sit well, at least with me. Just be professional, push through it, figure out who we want to be, affirm and acknowledge all those good golden nuggets you've already given us. Take that deep breath and push forward.
Be okay with those answers. Be okay with that.
Could their answers be wrong?
Possibly, but that's why you need to have a conversation with the team and not an individual, because that individual might just
Rail ya.
yeah, might just have an attitude with you. But you start to see trends with the team that, yeah, you are pretty brash or abrasive or however confrontational, and you always tell me I'm wrong or something, or you always think the negative. Okay, that's an opinion. But when people are kind of in agreement that, yeah, you do have a tendency to do that, okay, I'll do my best to work that out or get coaching on that.
There we go. There we go. And just to clarify again, we're talking about your peer team, but you can take these same type of ideas to your team that you lead, right?
Yeah, concept's the same.
You're the one going first. You're the one standing up front saying, how well do you trust me, family?
And so can I go down the road again on something?
Just a little road, because my brain is really, really tired right now. I need to ponder this.
So when we take these concepts, yes, it's about the team we're a part of, but when we take these concepts to the team we lead, leverage what we would call the first follower or the person who gives you buy-in, because there's someone generally on our team that will be giving us all kinds of support.
Like the voice?
Yeah.
All kinds of support.
Yeah, like if we're going to start an initiative and you're behind it, I'm going to leverage you, because not only am I saying it, but the first follower, the person who's buying into it, will have a voice. And if I tell you something, you have about a 50% chance of agreeing with it, right? If I tell you multiple times the same thing, it goes up to about 60 to 70%. If she says what I'm trying to say to you, now we're looking at about a 90% chance of buy-in. So identify, leverage that first follower who's singing the same song you are to your team, and you've got more of a chance to have a unified front in developing trust in this case. Does that make sense?
A little extra gold nugget there.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Okay, in the topic of trust, the spirit of trust, figure out what's your golden nugget that you took from everything that John was sharing, and hone in on that. Hone in on that to make it a habit, make it part of your system before you jump into the next, because it can be a lot.
It is incredibly a lot. But here's also a thing. If you have any questions or comments, or you would like to get a little bit deeper in that, reach out to Kathy, and we'll schedule some time.
And that's what coaching's for.
That's right.
Thank you for sharing all your insight. Thank you guys for leaning into this. Till next time.